Hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Anderson, and I want to talk to you today about an incredibly important subject that amazingly is very difficult to find on the internet, and especially on YouTube videos. The subject is forgiveness. Now, you may say, well, there are all kinds of videos about forgiveness on the internet, and that's true if you're talking about forgiving others. But there's very little that I can find that's meaningful about learning how to forgive yourself, to find forgiveness for yourself. It's a strange phenomenon to me because it seems to me that if we are going to do this thing called forgive other people, which is a really difficult task under any circumstance. It's really hard to forgive someone who has harmed you or someone that you love in some meaningful way. It's a very difficult process to go through to do that. However, if you learn first how to accept forgiveness for yourself, and I'm saying this in a very specific way, I'm saying accept forgiveness for yourself. I'm not talking about saying to myself, okay, Matthew, I'm going to forgive you. That's an act of ego, and it really doesn't work. So I'm going to tell you about how to accept forgiveness for yourself in a meaningful, even life-changing way. And once you do that, once you practice it, and for most of us, we have to practice it more than once. I do it 3 or 4 times a day, what I'm talking to you about today. I practice what the great spiritual leaders of history have done. Jesus said, forgive 70 times 7. Now, we all know, most of us who did okay in math know that that's 490, meaning you can't count 490 times about forgiveness. What he's saying is to make forgiveness a way of life. The great, really wonderful spiritual poet Jalaluddin Rumi said Muhammad asked God to forgive him 70 times a day. Now, I don't think that Muhammad was saying, I've been that bad, oh, please forgive me. I think what Muhammad was doing was what Rumi did also, who said the same thing. I ask God to forgive me 70 times a day. Asking for forgiveness for oneself 70 times a day, and nobody's really counting that, it means it's a constant sense of consciousness, of receiving forgiveness that is already there available to us. And that's the secret. Combined with the awareness that all forgiveness, whether it's for me or am I giving it to you, all forgiveness is by definition undeserved. Remember that. It's undeserved. That's why forgiveness has so much power. It's a free gift. It is a gift, as we might say, a gift of grace. It's a divine gift. So in reality, when you and I are accepting forgiveness for ourselves or even forgiving other people, we have opened ourselves to a divine power, to a divine gift. Now, I just want to talk about forgiving ourselves today because I think it's so important. And if you will learn how to accept forgiveness for yourself on a daily basis, then you will find it 100 times easier to forgive others. 100 times easier. So think about it like this. First, I want to read to you the definition that I've written about forgiveness. And then I'm going to talk to you briefly, but I hope very clearly, about a process you can use to accept forgiveness for yourself and begin to have the powerful spiritual experience of being what I like to call being filled with grace. So here's the definition. Forgiveness is a conscious decision to surrender to divine grace and thus offer an undeserved free gift of freedom from all condemnation, all punishment, and every toxic emotion, attitude, and action related to the harm caused. Forgiveness is a free gift that blesses and frees both the forgiver and the forgiven. And this is very important. Even when the forgiven is unaware of the gift, it has an effect. And as such, forgiveness is a miraculous, spiritually inspired, and empowered action that is ineffable, meaning not explainable or rational or understandable to normal human rationality. So what's important about that is to remember that number one is undeserved. That's basic to the definition and the understanding. If I have done something to cause someone real harm, and pretty much we all have done that more than once in our lives. If I have done something to cause someone true and real harm, then I can't take that back. That's a real thing. And if we're going to apply the old law, as we tend to do in our country, the law of Hammurabi, which says an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth kind of punishment, then you don't deserve forgiveness. You've done a crime, you should do the time. That's the way we think. But when we start thinking about real forgiveness, we have lifted ourselves up above the animal level of living. We have moved into the heart. We have moved into divine ways of understanding human relationships. And so forgiveness lifts us up out of the dirt, the mire, the swamp of all the nasty, hurtful, toxic feelings and attitudes that go with the pain of harming ourselves or other people. So it's to accept forgiveness for yourself. It's a process of surrendering to divine grace. It's not knocking on the door and saying, I'm here to get my dose. It's not demanding. It is a humble surrender, an opening of oneself, so that you can begin to receive the most powerful, cleansing, healing kind of gift I think that life has to offer. Forgiveness for yourself. Now, you may say, some things I've done are unforgivable. And the truth is, I think most of us have maybe a list of things that we have done or not done or neglected to do that were unforgivable. And you could probably make a list right now for what they are. You could probably make a list. I remember years ago I made a list. It had over 80 items on it. 30 years ago I made a list. All the things that I've never felt forgiven for. 80 items plus. It was an astounding confrontation to me to make that list and see. These are all the things that I have never felt forgiven for. I must be carrying them around in my heart, in my mind, in my body. Now, everybody has a list. And maybe you might want to start this exercise by making your own list. Things I have never felt forgiveness for. And look out for the ones that you think are unforgivable. Because here's the truth about that. They're not unforgivable. They are not unforgivable. From the point of view of divine forgiveness, and I'm convinced that all forgiveness, whether you believe in God or the higher power or the universe, anything, all forgiveness is divine. When we start the process of forgiving, we are opening ourselves up to divine energy. And so, forgiveness comes to us in beautiful ways. I like to imagine it as a waterfall. a waterfall of forgiveness, a giant, wonderful, beautiful, shining waterfall of forgiveness. And your task is to step underneath it and to allow forgiveness to pour down upon you and feel it move into your body, into your soul, into your mind, into your feelings, into the very cells of your being. That's the process of accepting forgiveness. Now, I'm going to take you through that more clearly in a moment, but it's stepping under the waterfall and receiving the cleansing gift that forgiveness is about. Now, I am deeply convinced, deeply, that forgiveness is always available to us. It's we who have that self-hating judge inside that says, no, you don't deserve it. The crap that you have done, nobody should be forgiven for. I have one of those. I have dealt with one of those in my own self and in hundreds and hundreds of other people over the years. It's an incredibly painful part of us that in some way wants to destroy us, wants to hold us up and put us in prison for those things that we did that we really did. And it talks like this: you are not deserving of forgiveness. And that, my friends, is wrong. So forgiveness comes to us like a divine waterfall. It's always there. It's always flowing. And I made myself a promise one day. I said, I don't want to be the man who stands underneath the waterfall of forgiveness with a thimble in his hand. I want to stand underneath that waterfall and soak it into every portion of my being, because I know how much I need it. And to tell you the truth, I know how much you need it too. It's amazing to me how many people I have met in so many different situations who will say to me, Matthew, I have never felt the experience of being forgiven. It's a tragedy. And so I want to do something today with you that will help you let go of that feeling of standing outside the waterfall, of watching this thing that could change your life, your sense of yourself, and refusing to step into it. Today I'm going to invite you, right now, to step into the waterfall of forgiveness. And when you do, to open your heart and surrender all your resistance, all those nasty, judgmental, self-hating thoughts and attitudes about yourself. Imagine that this waterfall of forgiveness is just washing them away, cleansing you all the way down from your head to your toe. I'm going to ask you to do that, not just once. I'm going to ask you to do it at least 3 times a day for the next 90 days. And why would I do that? Because most of us have enormous resistance to the idea that we can be forgiven. We've learned it in a culture, we've learned it in families, we've learned it in our schools, we've learned it in our legal system, we've learned it everywhere. You are not worthy of forgiveness. But I'm telling you, from a divine point of view, you are. That waterfall flows for everyone. There is no one exempt. Every person, every crime, every problem, everything that you have done, everything that you have not done will be washed away in that waterfall of forgiveness. And you will then be filled with something we call grace, meaning Forgiveness is a free gift, and grace, the word grace, means free gift. In most cases, it means a divine free gift. God, higher power, universe, whatever word you have for that beautiful, all-powerful, loving force, has created a waterfall of forgiveness that you can step under in surrender, in humility. You can take those attitudes that I don't forgive myself with you and stand under there, and you will begin to feel washed. You will begin to feel healed. You will begin to feel whole, and most importantly of all, you will start to feel filled with something that can only be called grace, and that will give you experiences of yourself and life and other people that I cannot predict for you, but they will all be miraculous. They will all be wonderful. They will all be incredible. So I want you to join me in saying this prayer together. And as I read it, I'm going to ask you to open your heart, to open your mind, to take that thought, I don't deserve, this is stupid, this is crazy, this is not right, I haven't done what I need to do to receive this, I haven't paid my dues. Let that go just for a moment. Let it go just for a moment and absorb what I'm going to read to you. Take a couple of deep breaths now. Open your heart. Imagine your heart is opening to receive something that maybe you've never experienced in your whole life, and it is divine. Close your eyes for a second and just take this in. On this day, I now humbly, fully, and without resistance or reservation accept divine forgiveness for my every action, every thought, and every deed that has harmed others and or myself or any part of creation in this or any past life. I am now filled with grace and am a new being from this day forth. And so it is. Take a breath and take that in. Take another breath and take it in. And keep your eyes closed and listen and take this one in also. This is a second prayer. I am forgiven and am a new being, a child of grace, and am born anew, free of all consequences, be they physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, from any part of my past. I am now blessed and offer these blessings of forgiveness to all I encounter from this day forth. And it is so. Take that in. You can open your eyes. Take it in. Let it be inside of you and your heart and your mind. Let it begin to wash away all that junk, all the self-hate, all the self-recrimination, all the shame, all the guilt, all the crap that you carry around every single day of your life because you have not learned until today to accept forgiveness. Every person in your life will benefit from this. Every person will benefit from you receiving forgiveness. It will lighten your load. It will lighten you on every way of imagining that word. It will make you closer to yourself and closer to God and closer to anyone that you choose to love. And it will make it so much easier for you to offer this free gift to all of those people out there that have harmed you. And you know there's a list of them. You know there's a list. You will start to see forgiving others as a gift you're giving to yourself. But first, I invite you to listen to this over and over and to go through the process of standing underneath the waterfall of forgiveness and receive it. Surrender to it. Let go. Let your reservations, your resistance just wash away. And take it in. And you will become, over time, as you practice this, a new being, filled with grace, and a blessing to yourself and all of us. God bless you.